let's start over.
Huh?
Let's start over if you don't mind.
Start over.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
let's go back. You're talking about moving to a place on the south side of Buttman Ranch in 1921,
Yeah.
and you were 2 years old. And
Yeah.
you tell me that you remember that move. Tell us about.
I remember that day.
Okay, tell us.
I do. I remember it clearly moving there. And I remember the guy driving our milk cow and calves. I remember riding on the dresser, laid down in the wagon with the quilts folded up under me. Leonard and I. We were the only two at the time. Bunchy was born in I remember the latter part of 21.
Yeah.
Because I remember one time well, she was walking real good, and Leonard and I and her went down to the little road, run up to another house way on up on the ranch there, and it rained, and right in that spot was a lot of water and mud and stuff, and we got down there and playing in that, and Bunchy got muddy as a pig. Well, she didn't get a spanking, but Leonard and I both got it.
What'd you get it with?
Huh?
What with?
Huh?
What with?
I don't rightly remember. I think it was a little switch of some kind of stung. And my brother, Benny Arthur, was born in 23, and he only lived a month. Well, we still lived there on that place south of the main ranch house. And then we moved over west of the ranch, and
The one on the south was the one that was up on the hill?
yeah, on kind of a little rise, you know. It wasn't no hill, you might call it. The one where the old saddle pony dumped my dad. That old pony, he'd be all right all during the day, but when he first saddled him up and got on him, he'd really want to put on a show for him, you know. He'd work him out real good, and he'd settle down and be kind of halfway decent the rest of the day, you know. And,
So Grandpa was a cowboy.
well, he worked as a cowboy. He was a good hand at anything. He worked in a tool dresser on the oil rig in 1926 when they built an old, it was a wood derrick, one old churn drill, cable drill. And I remember carrying his lunch to him, walking over there. I watched them where we lived. It was 1.5 miles, 2 miles over where they built that rig. And every day you could see it was just a little higher, you know. It was adding lumber to it. But I get a little ahead there. We moved on to that place in over on the west side when he started farming, quit the cowboy and started farming. And
When was that? What year was that? What year?
in 1924. I think it was in the fall of 23 or the spring of 24. I remember we made 2 crops on that place. And I can remember cutting weeds in there, boy. I'll tell you, I was 5 or 6 years old out there working, chopping weeds, picking cotton, and all kinds of things. You know, I worked from the time I could do anything at all, I guess.
So was that property that you guys bought?
Huh?
That was property that Grandpa bought?
No, he was renting it.
Oh, rented.
Yeah, he was renting it. And I'll tell you, the biggest letdown in my life I remember was when I found out figured out that once you had this crop all in, you had to start over again. You wasn't done, boy. You just started over, man. that kind of shook me up a little bit.
So you grew cotton?
Huh?
You grew cotton there?
Yeah. You cotton and corn and maize and sorghum cane and all kinds of stuff like that.
How many acres were there?
I think you had about 175 acres.
Well, that's a big place then.
Yeah, it was a pretty good size. And
And what did you till with?
huh?
What did you till with?
With an old disc plow with 6 head of mules hooked to it. And we made 2 crops on that place, and we moved over on the east side where we stayed for 14 years. On this one place, we moved there in 26. But I got my first day of school in 1925.
That made you 6 years old then.
Huh?
That was 6 years old for you.
Yeah. And I was scared plumb to death, boy.
Well, you hadn't played with any other kids up until then very much, had you?
Huh?
You had not played with very many other kids up until that time.
Oh, played with all the young ones on the ranch over there. There's families around, live around there. Yeah, all the Buckman kids. They're just like family to us, you know. They stayed down at our place a lot. That, especially after we moved on the east side, well, they'd come down there and we'd all play together, and well, we'd go up to their place, you know.
Now,
Sam Buckman's kids, Sam and Will.
how many were there?
Huh?
How many?
Oh golly, I can't remember exactly.
Now this is a place that you took me to when I was a kid. The place where you stayed for 14 years?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Had the big oak trees around it.
Yeah.
That's all gone now. Even the old big trees all fell down and rotted away.
And that's the place that you showed me on Google.
Huh?
That's the place you showed me on Google.
Yeah. Yeah, I started school in 25 and scared to death, afraid of the teachers and everything, but found out they wasn't real vicious. Then we moved over to the east side. I think we had 180 acres there at the house, around the house, close, and then we rented another 25 acres across the pasture, the old Tucker place we called it. And it's all grown up in cedar brush now, cedars and probably cat claws and mesquites and everything. A lot of those fields are all up in timber now, up in cedar. They quit farming them, just let them grow up.
Tell us about, go ahead.
Uh,
Go ahead.
I went to school there at Buckman for 1925 till 1934. I think it's 34 I quit. I got up one morning and I had to ride a school bus 18 miles into town, and it was an old Chevrolet truck with kind of a chicken coop bed on it, a house on it. Man, they'd shoot you hauling people and something like that today. And I have to leave before daylight or by daylight, and get home it was dark. I stood about 3 months of it. Got up one morning, I was eating breakfast. I ate breakfast. I sat there drinking a cup of coffee. And Dad said, "You better hurry up, you won't miss that school bus." I said, "I ain't going to school." He said, "Not going to school today." I said, "I'm not going to school anymore."
How old were you?
I was, let's see, 34, 15, 15 years old. And he said, "You got your mind made up?" I said, "Yep." He said, "Okay. Get through that cup of coffee." He said, "There's 8 head of horses and mules out there in the corral. And you hook them to that breaking plow." He said, "There's 180 acres of land out there, and don't you let up or look back till you've turned it all over." Man, I rode that breaking plow out there when the sleet was falling. Boy, I tell you, I'd think about that warm schoolroom, and I said, "Man, I'd die before I'd go back." Man. But that was a big mistake. Man. I was in the 9th grade. Quit in the 9th.
You had only 4 years to go.
That's all the schoolhousing I had, boy. I tell you. We lived there up until 39. Dad died.
How did he die?
He had an ulcer, perforated ulcer. It broke through on him, and what the heck you call that sets in? Peritonitis, something like that.
Peritonitis.
Peritonitis.
Yeah.
Very few people live once they have that,
Yeah.
and it doesn't goes any length of time without being treated.
I worked around different jobs until 41. I was working for Tom Russell, and I was building a fence down in a kind of a little creek bottom, river bottom. Sunflowers higher in my head and hot as all get out. It was in July. And come noontime that day, well, I hooked a tractor. I had a tractor that hauled stuff out there, fence posts, wire and stuff, tools. Loaded all the tools up on that trailer, rode it back to the house, crawled off of it, and told him, I said, "I'm through, I'm done, I'm leaving." He said, "Well, what are you going to do?" I said, "I'm going to go join the Air Corps." He said, "Well, I've been expecting something like that." He said, "You know, I wanted to beat the draft to get what I wanted, boy, I'll tell you." And went up to, they shipped me up to Jefferson Barracks, Missouri. And I wound up down on the bank of the Mississippi River clearing brush out for a parade ground, and it was just as hot as it was down there in Texas, and the humidity would have killed a mule, boy.
You jumped from the frying pan into the fire.
Oh, you better believe it. I was only there about, I think, not quite a month, and they shipped me on up to Rantoul to Chinook Field. Put in 6 months in the mechanic school. I learned what made a generator gin and a starter start. And after I graduated from there, we'll shipped down to San Antonio. Can't think of that little airfield out there south of San Antonio. We were only there about a couple of months, or not hardly that long. And shipped out to Charleston, South Carolina.
Where was it that you built crates and stuff?
Huh?
Where was it that you built crates?
There at Duncan Field, that's where it was, yeah. Yeah, we was crating up all their equipment for engine overhaul depot. And they shipped me to, shipped us down to Charleston, South Carolina, to Fort Moultrie. We was there, I don't remember exactly when, but I know we shipped out of there the 19th of March, 42. Down to San Juan, Puerto Rico, across to Sierra Leone, West Africa, and down to Port Elizabeth. We was there a couple of days, and around to Port Elizabeth, and we were on the old SS Brazil, all GIs. We had a bunch of what we call feather merchants. They were technical reps on a little Monterey. Incidentally, I run into that thing down in Hawaii when we went down to visit Tom and Becky. It was still afloat, and it was a cruise ship.
Yeah.
It converted it into a cruise ship. But we run into some pretty rough stuff off Cape Town, about 3 or 4 days out. Man, some real monstrous rollers. And that Monterey would dive into it, and it'd come up and go up over the doggone thing, and the screws would come out of the water. Back down, that old Brazil just bored right through them. I tell you, it's a monster. And I was talking to one of those guys at Port Elizabeth. We stayed there a couple of days, and they let us talk to go into town. And we were in a joint, and I was talking to one of them, and he said, "I want you to tell me," he said, "is that Monterey a steamship or a submarine?" He said, "It's underwater half the time."
Now, was Port Elizabeth before or after Cape Town?
Huh?
Port Elizabeth was
It's
that?
around on Cape Town's on the kind of the southwest corner of it, you might say, and Port Elizabeth's right, just around the
So you
tip. Yeah.
did you stop in Cape Town or no?
Yeah, we stopped in Cape Town
Cape Town and then Port Elizabeth.
for 2 days.
Oh.
And we got acquainted with some people there. They took us all over. Me and one of my buddies took us all over, and they was planning on us going back the next day, and they was going to take us out to some other doggone place. I don't remember what it was. And I woke up sometime in the middle of the night, and I felt that old ship going up and down, boy. She sneaked out on us with us, you know. And we went up the east side of Africa into, we picked up a monstrous convoy, all kinds of doggone ships. And I forget now, we was with them for 2 or 3 days, 3 or 4 days. And one morning, all them rascals, they just changed course, 90 degrees. They was headed for Bombay, I know now. And we cut straight on north to Karachi. It was India then, but it's Pakistan now. And boy, they put the coal on that thing, man. I'll tell you, the old deck was just vibrating.
Yeah.
But going across we did a lot of zigzagging across the Atlantic on account of the subs. they had to have so much time to get zeroed in on you and fire. If you change course, well, it's just too late, boy, they couldn't get you. But no more, boy, them doggone torpedoes will follow you.
Yeah.
Touch one off, man, whichever way you go, it's gonna go. It's gonna get you, man. Yeah, went on up into Agra, India, and set up that overhaul depot. And
So all the materials that you crated up,
huh?
all the material that you crated up went with you.
Yeah. Yeah, it got there the same time we did. It's on a different ship, I guess, but it got there. All their doggone machinery and everything. And we got it all set up. I was there until, I think, January in '43. Well, I come up on a list to go to China, to Kunming. And we flew up to a place, Gaia, I believe, G-Way. There was a bomber base there. We landed there. So we went in there on a train, and then we flew from there in a B-24 C-87. It was a cargo ship. Up to into Assam. Shabwa, I believe was the name, that jumping off place over the hump. We caught up with 6 or 8 C-47s flying along, and all at once, so those guys, they just peeled around at 180 and headed back the other way, and a little bit later, well, we did too. First thing I knew, well, we landed where we took off from that morning. Getting late in the evening, though. And 2 days later, well, we took off again. And those 47s, they took off where we did, and way on up country, well, we passed them. And a little while later, right after we passed them, I saw some of them, well, they turned and headed back the other way again. Well, Shabba was all weathered in. And they told this pilot that it was all socked in, raining real hard. To turn back, they said, I haven't got the gasoline enough to make it back. And we went on in there, boy, we was down in the treetops when we finally popped down into that doggone airstrip. And I was sitting out looking out the window at the landing gear, and man, the old left gear, it'd lock up and it'd slide and smoke, and it'd roll and it'd lock it up and slide and smoke some more. And we doggone near used up all that runway too before we got stopped. But we was socked in there for 5 or 6 days. And
Monsoon, huh?
huh?
Monsoon?
Yeah, bad. Real stormy. And finally, there were about 20 of us guys. And we were staying in some old bamboo shacks. And one morning, well, they dug us out real early and said it was clear over the hump we was going. And they sent me and 2 Chinese boys down to one of these planes, and walked up there. Guys, they checked it all out and they was ready to go. And I asked the pilot, I said, you got any jump sacks in that thing? He said, what do you want with one of them? I said, I might want out of that thing. He said, son, you're not going to get high enough to jump, he said. And that was a wild ride, boy. for company, we had 10 55-gallon drums of 100 octane gasoline in there. Roped to the sides. And we took off near the big ridge ahead of us. We climbed over that, and there was nothing out there higher. We just kept climbing. I think we were 17,500, and we wasn't higher than the rest of the mountains. I tell you, we were going through the clear spots.
Now is
Peaks
this,
sticking up higher than we were.
yeah, is this where you heard the angels sing?
Huh?
Is this where you heard the angels sing?
No, I didn't
No?
hear any angels singing. I was too interested in what them drums of gasoline was doing when they was getting a foot off the floor and slamming into it like a ton of bricks.
Isn't this where the Chinese guys just clunked over because they couldn't get enough oxygen?
Huh?
Isn't this where the Chinese
Yeah,
fellas?
they conked out on me, but I stayed awake. But I could hear people talking, hearing music, and everything. Man, I'll tell you, the most violent updrafts and downdrafts I could imagine, you know. And one time we had one that's kind of severe. Well, I tell you, really slammed them drums into the bottom and into the floor. The engineer come back there and he said, "You smell any gasoline?" And I said, "Nope." He said, "If you do, open that door and roll it out of here." My main concern was a Zero coming along and punching us with some incendiaries. But we landed in Kunming. I told them boys, I said, "I'll walk out of here before I fly back over that."
But you did fly back over it, didn't you?
I flew in a B-24 tanker.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd worked on the old plane several times. Changed the generator once, and did a little maintenance for them. They was tanking gas in out of Dhaka over northeast of Calcutta. And I saw that me and my buddies, we'd been hanging around there about 4 days. There was 3 of us together, and me and this one kid got all zonked out one night and missed a ride out on a B-24. We never heard of them fellas again. The guy that was with us, never seen him at all. Never heard of him. They went down somewhere. That was one good drunk I pulled along.
It was one that was worthwhile, huh?
Yeah. And I saw that old 24 come in and looked kind of familiar, and I saw the number on the stabilizer, 62. I went up, talked to the pilot, and asked him if we could ride out. He said, "Let me see your orders." And I showed them to him. He said, "Go down to operations, check you out a parachute." And he said, "We've got prop governor trouble." He said, "If we can get out of here by 11 o'clock, we'll go. But if we can't, we're not going to risk a night landing down there. We'll lay over and go early the next morning." And they got her operating all right, and when we hauled out of there. And we flew the southern route over northern Burma. They had the Japs kicked out of there pretty well. You could see smoke from conflicts going on several places along. And that was just like a green carpet down under us, all that jungle. We topped out at 16,000 feet, and then we let down to 12. And you just see the little rivers running through all that jungle stuff down there. And we come to a fair-sized river, there's a big old boat on it. We crossed over he was right below us. We crossed over, and tail gunner called the pilot and said, "Let's circle around and go down there and kind of massage him with these 50s a little bit," you know. And the old boy, he just peeled her around, lined up on him and started down, and then he hauled it back up, and he said, "No, he might be friendly." I was thinking, yeah, he might be unfriendly too with a whole bunch of anti-aircraft guns on him. They didn't try to massage him as they called it.
Massage, huh?
Yeah.
Now, from there you went where?
Huh?
From there you went where?
We landed in Dhaka and spent the night there and caught a C-47 out the next morning for Calcutta. And I think we were there for, at least 2 weeks before we shipped out to Bombay. Rode a train down to Bombay. Took us a couple of 3 days, I think, to go from Calcutta to Bombay on that old puddle jumping freight, whatever it was.
To train?
Huh?
Train?
Train, yeah. It wasn't one of them fancy passenger trains or anything like that.
So that's where you learned to ride freight trains, huh?
No. I rode freight trains before I got on that thing.
Yeah.
But we were in Bombay, I think about a week before we loaded up. We was on the Billy Mitchell troop transport. Had a sister ship, the Randall. And we left there, and one of the sailors told me, he said, well, we've got 2 things to worry about. Jap submarines, number 1. Number 2, the Randall running into us, you know. He said they'd had a couple of close ones with all their zigzagging back and forth to thwart the torpedoes. Then went down to Port Elizabeth. We didn't stay there I stayed over there 1 day, I think. And up to Guadalcanal, and we picked up 4,000 real bush Marines there, boy, on their way home. They'd been through the mill.
This was in 43?
Huh?
This was 43? 1943?
No, this was 44.
44, okay.
Yeah. And we went up across the Pacific. That is one big puddle of water. But after a while, well, we quit that changing course every 15 or 20 minutes and went in a straight line in San Diego. And we got into San Diego, we all got a 10-day leave and reported back, and then they shipped me out of San Diego.
Where did you go on leave?
Went home.
Did you? Okay.
Yeah.
Now, had you been sending...
When I got into Merkel, I had completed a circuit around the world. And they shipped me down to Luke Field, right west of Phoenix. Had to go through my basic training all over again, and guard duty and all kinds of crap like that. When I'd been mechanicking on airplanes, and they had all kinds of them out there, and they come up with guys to volunteer for gunnery school. And me and my buddy hopped right to it, boy. We volunteered.
Why did you have to go through basic training again? You'd already done it.
I don't know why. Just a bunch of chicken, man, I tell you. That's what I told that officer. He wanted to know why I wanted to leave, why I wanted to go to gunnery school. I told him, I said, things a little bit too chicken around here for me. So I went through gunnery school, and I was on orders to ship to Lincoln, Nebraska for transition training on the B-26 from the B-24.